All right, everyone, welcome to the Ventures Podcast. I am excited to share this episode with you. This is a screencast where I'm going to be talking about how to use generative AI to start a startup. And I'm going to be walking through some frameworks with startuprocket.com, one of our portfolio companies at Proto Ventures. And so this is a screencast. So if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast player, you can also click on the link in the show notes to watch the screencast. And if you're watching it, you can also listen anywhere that you get your podcast. You can just search for Ventures and it should show up. So what I'm looking at here on the screencast is startuprocket.com. We launched this as an internal tool and created it to be able to track and ideate our own startups. And then we released it to the world a while ago. So a number of founders all around the world are using this to help facilitate building their startups. And in advent of the LLMs and generative AI, the process of starting a startup has changed quite significantly. So I wanted to record a quick episode here, at least to introduce how to think about starting a startup using generative AI and the tools that are available today. So as there are frameworks in Startup Rocket when you go to it, I think a lot about how to go from an idea to a public minimal viable product, an MVP. And in general, it's always a pretty chaotic process. And I always try to think about how to be more efficient and how to advise founders to be more efficient with their time. So one way to do that, and it's definitely not always a linear process, but basically you have an idea, you do some surveys and interviews to create a landing page, build some hype for it, usually use something like Figma to build a prototype, and then whatever, if you get a sufficient amount of demand when you do your testing, to warrant actually coding up a private MVP and then releasing to the public. There's generally a process by which you go about doing that. And so if you notice, these are hexagons along the way, and you can think of these almost, obviously lean startup and the whole agile methodology is important, but when you're building a startup, there is actually stage gating that happens because you have to decide whether you want to keep going, spending your resources, your time or money or investors' money or whatever. And so in general, if you think about starting on the top right here, you got to ideate something and create something, and you got to validate whether it's a thing. Then as you're validating it, you're essentially growing whether it's information or what's users or customers or investors or whatever. And you got to make a gate. You have to make a decision whether you're going to fund it with your money, other people's money, your time, other people's time. And then it's sort of this circular process. So ultimately and I'll come back to that screen. Ultimately, then, I think a better way, this is like the framework 2.0 that we have on Startup Rocket is, as you do your surveys and interviews and your landing page, your prototype, your private MVP and your public MVP, you're constantly coming back and refining your idea and ideating and creating different aspects of your idea and your business plan as you go. And so within Startup Rocket, and you'll see here how this ties in with generative AI, we have, I've built out a whole framework about how to refine your idea, how to do surveys and interviews with your team and all the nuances of that, how to set up a landing page, how to build a prototype in Figma with regard to branding and product and your marketing plan, how to get your private MVP set up, and everything from legal and finances and data architectures all the way down to your private alpha and your marketing plan and your test results. And then ultimately your public MVP leading into some seed funding here. So you can imagine this is a framework. Obviously startups are built different ways, but most startups are going to have to go through some process to do most of this. You can now imagine going to your favorite LLM and now it being your guide through this process. And so even if you don't even have a good startup idea, you can imagine coming here to GPT. Bing actually has GPT-4 available for free. You can also pay the $20 per month for OpenAI's ChatGPT, but there's a lot of GPT services out there now. So just basically pick whatever one you like the best, and you can ask it. What are some good ways to come up with startup ideas? And it has a huge LLM, and GPT-4 takes a little bit longer than GPT 3.5 here. But yeah, any one of these LLMs is going to start giving you, it's going to start giving you ideas. Identify problems, things you're passionate about. It's going to give you pretty standard advice that any angel investor or entrepreneur um, is gonna give you. It can say, think creatively about brainstorming sessions, identify competitors, do research, and then it actually gives you. This is kind of a cool thing that Bing does. It gives you the references for what it comes up with here. And so you can imagine now coming through. Yes, in Startup Rocket there are prompts for every one of these and some guides through every one of these, almost like a learning management software. But now you can augment that with with your LLM. So yes, you can now, let's say I have a great startup idea. How do I test demand for it? So it comes through and it says, one way is to do this, another way is to do this. And then you can drill in. So if anything in that your LLM doesn't make sense to you, you can keep asking it questions, like drill in and ask even more questions. So like with this idea here, it's you are definitely identifying the problem or the opportunity, like the insights. Why is now the right market time to go after it? What is the details of the solutions that you're building? What's an overview statement so you can quickly communicate your idea, and then really drilling into the market, competitors, revenue model, whether there's sufficient margins to be made, how big's your market size, if you do a bottoms-up analysis, do you have ideal customer profiles or user profiles set up? Are there any regulatory concerns? This is basic business plan stuff you'll take in any business class or entrepreneurship class. And but now you have a companion. You have a 24/7 tutor with your favorite LLM to ask questions along the way. And so you can take these frameworks in Startup Rocket, combined with LLMs, and I'm sure I'm happy to drop some alpha here that for sure the Startup Rocket is going to be releasing its own chatbot that's LLM based, and schools this fall or any classes that you're going to take, if they're up with the times, are going to have their own chatbots that either leverage OpenAPI's API or OpenAI's APIs, or any of their competitors that are up and coming. So yeah, learn more about Startup Rocket, just go to startuprocket.com. You can create a free account to get going in any of the frameworks there, and then just use Startup Rocket combined with ChatGPT or Bing Chat or any of these LLMs, and you're going to be in pretty good shape, going all the way even into writing code for you. You can ask it how to use things like Figma. The sky's the limit. I'll release more podcasts and screencasts about that as we go here. So feel free to hit me up with any questions. You can just email me at will@wclittle.com. Happy to have a conversation. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your week. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I wanted to just let you know before you go that if you're interested in following along with any of the content I write, go to wclittle.com. There I have a newsletter that you can subscribe to, and just subscribe to any topic that I write about, whether it's Web3 or health science or software development or any of the miscellaneous new buzzwords like generative AI and other things that come up. And you can also publish. That new platform is called Satchel. We're letting in more folks into the beta. Think kind of like a Substack, Medium, Mirror, WordPress, but it has some new features that are coming that I think you're going to be really interested in. Also, if you're building a startup, I have a portfolio company called Startup Rocket. StartupRocket.com gives you coaching frameworks and different guides so that you have an understanding about how to build a startup in a scalable way, and you can bring in your team and your mentors and advisors and potential investors. So we've built that platform and use it internally at my venture capital group, Proto Ventures, and I would highly recommend it for you. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your week.